Most of Solidarity's leaders were descendants of Bolshevik Jews from Odessa and were not noted for hating communism. This helps to understand the saturation coverage provided by the American news media. Professor Sachs has taken the process a step further, ensuring economic slavery for a Poland recently freed from the domination of the USSR. Poland will now become the economic slave of the United States. All that has happened is that the master has changed. Brzezinski is the author of a book that should have been read by every American interested in the future of this country. Entitled The Technotronic Era, it was commissioned by the Club of Rome. The book is an open announcement of the manner and methods to be used to control the United States in the future. It also gave notice of cloning and robotoids, i.e. people who acted like people and who seemed to be people, but who were not. Brzezinski, speaking for the Committee of 300, said the United States was moving into an era unlike any of its predecessors. We were moving toward a technotronic era that could easily become a dictatorship. I reported fully on the Technotronic era in 1981 and mentioned it in my newsletters a number of times. Brzezinski went on to say that our society is now in an information revolution based on amusement focus, spectator spectacles, saturation coverage by television of sporting events, which provide an opiate for an increasingly purposeless mass. Was Brzezinski another seer and a prophet? Could he see into the future? The answer is no. What he wrote in his book was simply copied from the Committee of 300's blueprint given to the Club of Rome for execution. Isn't it true that by 1991 we already have a purposeless mass of citizens? We could say that 30 million unemployed and 4 million homeless people are a purposeless mass, or at least the nucleus of one. In addition to religion, the opiate of the masses, which Lenin and Marx acknowledged was needed, we now have the opiates of mass spectator sport, unbridled sexual lusts, rock music, and a whole new generation of drug addicts. Mindless sex and an epidemic of drug usage was created to distract people from what is happening all around them. In the Technotronic era, Brzezinski talks about the masses as if people are some inanimate object, which is possibly how we are viewed by the Committee of 300. He continually refers to the necessity of controlling us, masses. At one point, he lets the cat out of the bag. At the same time, the capacity to assert social and political control over the individual will vastly increase. It will soon be possible to assert almost continuous control over every citizen and to maintain up-to-date files, containing even the most personal details about health and personal behavior of every citizen in addition to the more customary data. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities. Power will gravitate into the hands of those who control information. Our existing institutions will be supplanted by pre-crisis management institutions, the task of which will be to identify in advance likely social crises and to develop programs to cope with them. This describes the structure of FEMA, which came much later. This will encourage tendencies through the next several decades toward a technotronic era, a dictatorship, leaving even less room for political procedures as we know them. Finally, looking ahead to the end of the century, the possibility of biochemical mind control and genetic tinkering with men, including beings which will function like men and reason like them as well, could give rise to some difficult questions. Brzezinski was not writing as a private citizen but as Carter's national security advisor and a leading member of the Club of Rome and a member of the Committee of 300, a member of the CFR and as a member of the old Polish black nobility. His book explains how America must leave its industrial base behind and enter into what he called a distinct new historical era. What makes America unique is its willingness to experience the future, be it pop art or LSD. Today, America is the creative society, the others, consciously or unconsciously, are emulative. What he should have said was that America is the proving ground for the Committee of 300 policies which lead directly to a dissolution of the old order and an entry into the one world government new world order. One of the chapters in The Technotronic Era explains how new technology will bring in its wake intense confrontation that will strain social and international peace. Oddly enough, we are already under intense strains through surveillance. Lourdes, Cuba is one place where this is happening. The other is NATO headquarters in Brussels, Belgium, where a giant computer designated 666 can store data of every type mentioned by Brzezinski, plus possessing an expanded capacity to take in data for several billions more people than presently exist, if it ever comes to that, but which, in the light of the Global 2000 Genocidal Report, will probably never need to be utilized. Retrieval of data will be simple in the United States, where Brzezinski and his Committee of 300 colleagues could simply add social security and/or driver license numbers to 666 to provide the surveillance recording announced. The committee already in 1981 warned governments including the government of the USSR, that there will be chaos unless the Committee of 300 takes complete control of preparations for the New World Order. Control will be exercised through our committee and through global planning and crisis management. I reported this factual information a few months after I received it in 1981. Another item I reported back then was that Russia had been invited to join the preparations for the COMLNG-1 world government.